Hi guys, something wonderful about Andy Burnham, which he takes advantage of, and I hope he continues to do so, is speak his mind on issues that are important to him without fear of upsetting his party or undermining his position. Andy has been extremely critical of a number of recent policies and put in place measures using his powers as the Mayor of Greater Manchester to mitigate the damage done to the people of his city. While the Prime Minister and Labour MPs tiptoe around criticism of Brexit, Andy doesn't hold back. And he called out one of the greatest cons the Leave campaign made ahead of the referendum. Here he was appearing on the Laura Kuenssberg show. Great stuff, Andy.
Sometimes asylum seekers arriving to live in their communities where there isn't the right infrastructure, there isn't right support. In your patch in Altrincham in Cheshire, there's suddenly a new asylum hotel with 300 people arriving. Do you think there's a political risk for your party on this issue?
Well, always, but I have great confidence in Yvette Cooper. She is one of the most experienced and knowledgeable ministers that there is. She's one of the best politicians of our era, and what she laid out in the interview is exactly what she would be doing. She talked about the agreements that have to be put in place with other countries. That's the hard work. I did it in the Blair government. You have to be on the phone to ministers in other governments.
So you were actually immigration minister at that point, weren't you?
I was, and this is the thing, and let me get to reform, because Susanna rightly raised it. Going forward from here in 2025, they need to be held to account for the consequences of their own policies.
Reform should.
The big lie of Brexit, in my view, needs to be exposed, because they promised us that it would control immigration. It's done the opposite. It's weakened control of immigration, because it's weakened those relationships with our neighbours that are absolutely critical to having an orderly system. But at the same time, it's changed the nature of migration. So they've been issuing more and more visas for people coming from further afield, staying permanently, whereas with free movement, it would have been somebody would come for a few years and then go back. So absolutely, I have confidence in what Yvette is doing. It's going to be hard. It was just interesting, if I could just say, listening to the Shadow Home Secretary about the Rwanda scheme. If they were so confident in it, I think they would have delayed the general election, wouldn't they, to when the first planes took off. But it's noticeable that they didn't do that, because they know it was a colossal failure and waste of money. And they, like with everything else, they weren't prepared to kind of own any of their issues. They cut and run. And just to hear all of that just now was just,
you know, really wound you up, hasn't it?
It has, because they're just not, there's no humility there in saying, yes, we failed. We need to learn the lessons. I didn't hear that from the Shadow Home Secretary.
Let's send.
Well said, well said. Please make this guy the leader of the Labour Party. Make this guy Prime Minister after Keir Starmer. Please do this, because he's an asset to the Labour Party. He's somebody who's honest, who's authentic. He's the polar opposite of Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage is fake authentic. You know, people actually think that he's authentic when he's not. Andy Burnham is authentic. He's somebody who cares about ordinary people. He's doing everything he can for the people of Greater Manchester to mitigate the damage that's been inflicted upon them from the Conservatives and this new Labour government. So he's a great politician, he's a great leader, and he's a great mayor. And hopefully someday he will be Prime Minister or leader of the Labour Party. He's an asset, as I said. But he's completely correct here. What happened was, of course, when the UK was a member of the European Union, there was freedom of movement. People could come from Eastern Europe, for example, come over for a bit, for a few years, and then return. But also, they wouldn't bring their families with them because it was a short distance. You could jump on a plane, be over in a few hours, and then return after a few months or a few years, or return every weekend or return every few months. It wasn't necessary for people who were travelling from so far away to bring family members with them. And this is what we're seeing at the moment. This is a consequence of Brexit. People are coming over to work in the care sector, are getting visas to bring dependents with them. They have been doing that for a number of years now, because maybe they have children to look after, or they have elderly people to look after, and they can't leave and return to Brazil or to parts of Asia at the drop of a hat. It makes more sense for them to bring their families with them. And of course, this increases the population. It increases the number of people who are registered as immigration. And this is part of the reason why there's been a massive explosion. Now, the Tories, of course, response to this was, well, let's stop issuing visas and stop allowing it, for example, people to bring dependents with them. But then what does that do? It discourages the immigration that you desperately need. It discourages people from coming to work in the care sector, to work in the NHS, to study in the universities. And the universities are desperate for money. The care sector is desperate for workers. Now, part of the response seems to be, let's just force people off benefits. Both the Conservatives and Labour are talking about this. That's not going to work. You need to have an intelligent, pragmatic approach to this. You need workers in the care sector. You need to bring people in. If you can't get people from Europe, then you're going to have to look further afield, and you're going to have to accept the reality that they're going to bring children with them, or they're going to bring parents or relatives with them, loved ones with them. That's the reality. Because if you don't want that, then you're not going to have a functioning care sector, you're not going to have a functioning NHS, and you're not going to have a functioning economy. We need more honesty. We need more people like Andy Burnham. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what do you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.